Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. I'm so glad you could join me this afternoon. I have a card for you that I'm really excited about. It's using the new suite World of Good. And so I have a You Make the World a Better Place card, and I think it could easily be a masculine happy birthday or an anybody happy birthday. And I'm really pleased with the way it came out. So let's just get started. Here is my card. Isn't that fun? And it's got the die cut from the World of Good die set for this. It's called World Map Dies, and there's two different parts of the world you can look at. For whatever reason, I used this one, didn't use this one. And then I used several other things from a couple of other stamp sets or die sets. The Painted Labels dies that came within the Poppy Suite has this beautiful swirl piece here, and I thought, how fun would that be to put my world on one of those. So I cut this out in our beautiful brass, the new mirror brass paper that we have. And then I used a 1 3/4 inch punch to punch out my sentiment. And then I used the Label Me Pretty punch to cut out this piece down here in the same paper to back my sentiment. And I've used, well, here, let me just show you what we've used so I can show you what we would need to make this. I used a very vanilla card base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And then I have the first layer on top is Early Espresso, and it's 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, which leaves me just the tiniest little border, cream border around the outside edge of this piece of paper. Then I used a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of it's the new blue one out of the new In Colors, and it's called Misty Moonlight. And I'm really, this is the second time I've worked with it, and I just love the way it came out on this card. So, and then to that end, I ran that through one of my new embossing folders, which is Old World paper. And look at how pretty that comes out. Isn't that just gorgeous? I'm really pleased with it. And I ran this piece of paper through this way because you'll see that this paper seems to have kind of a, well, to me it felt like it had kind of a directional look. And I wanted my pattern that's embossed here to be sort of up and down, and I felt like if I put it on this other way, it would felt like it went across. So I don't know, I put mine in this way so that it felt to me like I would get more of an up and down pattern than an across pattern. Anyway, that is what I did, and you can see I've already done my piece to save a little bit of time. Then let's see, then you need some scrap, whatever color you use here, for the backing of the world and for the sentiment itself. And the backing of the world, I used a 2-inch punch to cut this piece out. Then, let's see, then on the inside of the card, what I have is, this says, You Make the World a Better Place, and on the inside it says, Thank you for being part of mine. And so I used 4 by 5 1/4 Early Espresso, Misty Moonlight, and 3 3/4 by 5, and then very vanilla in 3.5 by 4 3/4. And then I did my stamping, and I have a little bit of that beautiful new suede, faux suede ribbon, which I also put on the front. So that is the card. So I think the best thing to do is, I've already stamped this, but I want to show you just how easy that is. And what I used, instead of using the Early Espresso ink, I use soft suede. The Early Espresso is really, really, really dark, and I didn't want it to look almost black, so I used the soft suede, and I think it matches the dark brown here really, really well. So let's do some stamping. So I have my stamps mounted here, and I have, let's see, I need my scrap, here it is, for my blue, to You Make the World a Better Place. And the only thing I would say about this is you need to stamp it far enough up and far enough away from your corner that you can get your circle stamp all the way around it. So, and the nice thing about a circle is there's always an angle that's straight. So just getting it down is fine. And there you go. Now the other stamping that we're going to do is on this piece for the inside of the card. Thank you for being part of mine. And I have mine all ready to go. And I will say that my stamp is nice and juicy. And so I put this centered and part way down the card. Trying to eyeball that to the center as close as I can get it. And there we go. All right. So those are done. I'll set those aside. And I think that that is all the stamping we're going to do. So then I used my 3/4 inch, 1 3/4 inch punch to get my sentiment centered on my circle. Then I also cut a 2-inch circle for my world. And this little scrap of designer series paper I thought was a lovely contrast that had the brass kind of pieces in it. And what I did was I ran this little die on this, and you don't need a very big piece of paper. This is about 2 1/4 inches square, and you can see I could have cut that back by 1/4 inch on either side and been just fine. So I have already cut out my piece here, and so it's now down to assembly. So that makes this a pretty fast little card. So this piece is going to get put down on the blue, and part of the reason I did that is when I put this down on the brass, it just kind of faded. You can see it just kind of disappears. But when I put the blue behind it, it pops. So that's what I did. And this piece that I used to cut out my punch and my this piece here that's going to go around the world ended up being, yeah, you can get away with about 3 1/8, but 3 1/4 to get this big piece cut out. And then you need a piece that's big enough to cut this out and do your punch if you're going to put it together this way. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is use some snail, and I'm going to use my dot runner on the back of my globe here to attach this to my blue circle. And there we go. And then I put this piece up on dimensionals go. All right. Now then, you put my snail on the back of this piece on the solid piece, and I added that to the upper part of my piece of paper that's been through the embossing folder, and I went a little bit beyond on both edges. You want to make sure you've got your globe the way you want it, because I thought that there's some margin in that this is going to go on the brown, and then on the card that it was a little more interesting if it went off the edge. Then I have some of this beautiful suede ribbon, and I have a piece here large enough to go across the front of my card. So this is about 5.5, 6 inches long or wide. And this piece can actually go on here. Now, I did use Tombow, and this little bottle is just got a super fine point on it, so I put my Tombow sometimes in here, and it's a little easier to manage. And you can get these at almost any craft store. They come 5 bottles to a package for practically nothing. Okay, and because that is so heavily embossed, I'm pretty secure about this, but I want to be able, because the margin is so small on here, I do want to be able to kind of wiggle that around until I am really happy with the margin I've got on all sides. There we go. Feeling pretty good about that. All right, now I'm going to take my ribbon and I'm going to add some snail on the end, kind of in the center, and on the other end, and put that around both of these pieces, sort of down here on the bottom quarter of the card. And then I will use those gluey ends to secure around the back of the card. There we go. All right, now then, my You Make the World a Better Place. I'm going to take that and use snail and put that on the brass mat that I've created here. And I'm going to set that on there so that my words are straight with the top and the bottom of my punched out piece there. And then once again, I did add a couple of dimensionals . When I'm placing this, I'm trying to sort of center that ribbon on this little bump on either side so that it'll look balanced and still keep my sentiment straight. So there we go. Now I'm going to add some snail onto, and I've just got a box in from Stampin' Up, and I've got the new version of the snail. I'm anxious to get it out and play with it here, but I wanted to get this video done. All right, so there we go on there, and there, isn't that pretty? I just love the dimension, the shiny, I love this paper. It's just great. And then this piece is next, and on this one all we have to do is put these 3 pieces together and put our ribbon on. So what I did was I centered this vanilla piece on my Misty Moonlight, and then I put my ribbon in place. And what I've done, ooh, wrong tape runner. All right, and what I did was I just made a little angle across the bottom of the card, and then did that on the opposite side as well, and anchored that around the back. I think I'll do this tape runner this time. And what you want to do is try and match your angle and make sure that it's not wildly different, the space here and here. And I think that's pretty good. I'm going to anchor that around the back, and then I will add my snail to the back of this, and that is going to go on the inside of, no, it's going to go here first on the brown. We could have done it without the brown, I suppose, but I like the idea of, that doesn't look like it wants to stay. I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the back of that. There we go. All right. There. I think that's pretty good. All right. Now I'm going to put some snail on this and put it on the inside of the card. So this card has lots and lots and lots of layers, so it's very rich looking. And very sturdy because of all of the component pieces here. You know, I told you a fib before. I told you this piece was cut 4 by 5 1/4, but I can tell as I'm putting it into place, it's cut 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 because there's just the tiniest margin around the outside of it. But there we go. That is the project for the day. Actually, for all of its impact, a pretty simple card. Now this could be a graduation card, and you could put a sentiment in here that says, you know, follow your dreams, or any number of things, and I think it could be a lot of things. I wanted to use all of the pieces out of this particular stamp set or this suite to show getting started on this. So that is the project for today. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator, and or you could join my team. My prize draw for the month of June is once again a bundle of your choice out of the new catalog. My winner for April was Melanie Morgan, and I talked to Melanie yesterday, I think it was, and she has put in her order, so her item is ordered and will be on its way just as soon as it gets here. Now, how do you get yourself in my drawing? All you have to do is put an order of any size on my website, lbedinger.stampinup.net, or you can get to it through my blog, www.ingenuity.com. And so that's it for me. I will be back soon with more cards, more projects, and more tips. Bye!